Oh, Canada is where this chess tournament is being played. It's the candidates. They're not political candidates, but chess candidates bidding to become the next World Chess Championship challenger, trying to take down incumbent Ding Liren. Now we're starting with our flagship game of round 6. It's Jan Nepomniachtchi with white, Fabiano Caruana with black. They're the highest rated players, and we're going to rattle through all 4 today. Don't go anywhere. We've got e4 on the board from Jan and e5 from Fabi. No c5 aggressive stuff we've seen him do in previous tournaments. He wants something solid, and after these couple of knight moves, we don't see Jan go bishop c4 or b5, but knight c3 instead, a more drawish way to play. Will the game explode into life? We saw Fabi lose in this variation to Hikaru only in the last 6 to 9 months or so. So there is some danger in it. Bishop b4 played, we get captures on c6, pawn recaptures, b pawn towards the centre, bishop d3, d5. This is standard stuff, you know, if e5, knight g4, black's fine. We're not going to deep dive on opening theory. Now the main move is recaptures, but Fabi castles here. And the point being, if you grab the extra pawn as white, bishop g4 comes quickly, f3 met with rook e8 check, etc. It's okay for black and you get your pawn back. So simply castles. And now most people do definitely take on d5 here, but Fabi still does the bishop g4 idea. Induces this weakness, opens this diagonal to the king, bishop h5, still Jan doesn't win the pawn. This time there's queen d4 check. Then ideas of taking here, and the knight can come to d5. You know, he knows what he's doing. He's booked up. Bishop g5 finally takes, and after captures, queen recaptures. White wins a clean pawn, but Fabi grabs it straight back on b2. Now surely white can take here, however, hit the rook. Yes, but once again, there's enough pressure for the pawn after the rook centralizes. Fabi's got the bishops on an open board, and there are targets here which he can get after very soon. So we don't see takes on c7. Rook b1 played, bishop c5 check. The king sidesteps. This queen re-centralizes, rook e1, queen d6, we get a check flipped in, but Fabi just sidesteps here. Now the development finished, connecting the rooks. This one slides back, knight takes, pawn takes, Fabi giving up the bishops, but we're in equal pawns, opposite coloured bishops. This is very drawish. We're going to keep flicking through the moves here, because I'm sorry to say, the game does not explode into life. Few more pawn moves, shuffly stuff going on. We rattle round to this final position, coming to too soon, roughly around move 40. The players agreed to the draw, save the energy here for future rounds. Nothing too much to say, and draw agreed on the board. Loads of time left on the clock for both players. So okay, that is how the game proceeded there. No fireworks, I'm afraid. We jump to this one, and this time I promise you bloodshed. But don't go anywhere either, still got Hikaru to come and Alireza. Now here with white is young Praggnanandhaa against the person in the tournament everyone's targeting, Nijat Abasov, right? He's the weakest player. He's trying to play these solid openings, as we've seen. We get this Tarrasch on the board, or semi-Tarrasch, with the knight already developed. e3, both players playing very symmetrically here, the ultra-symmetrical variation you might say, and now normally white is doing something in the centre, relieving tension, but Pragg goes b3 here, and he's creating an imbalance in the position by then going c5, b6, we see an exchange, and you've got this 2-on-1 on the queen side. That's his long-term play. Push that p, pawns. Now we get knight e4. Now you don't want to take. Pawn recaptures, kick the knight, huge pressure on d4, it's collapsing. So knight a4 played. Queen hit, retreats, bishop e2, both players castle, bishop f6, piles the pressure on the centre so it's covered, and after knight e7, manoeuvring, maybe here one day, that kind of thing, will we see knight c5, whoops, no rook c1 to cover c3, instead going straight for this. Interesting that Pragg is happy to part with his bishops, especially his good light squared one, but he's saying, okay, I've got a dominant knight, soon I want to push these pawns. So here we need counterplay from Abasov. He starts it with knight f5. The rook comes to the b file and e5. Big break in the centre, but not a bad move to sharpen things up, go for play. Pawn captures on the board. Bishop takes back. This one offered, but not captured by Pragg. He just brings the second rook into the centre, and there's huge pressure. If you go something like rook d8, well, now you're running into tactical problems. Bishop g5, you've just opened a double attack here, not good for black. Same if bishop e6, you get tactical problems after take, and then the bishop moving, big pressure here. The rook would still be on f8 in that line. So okay, the pawn can't be defended well. It therefore pushes on, but isn't captured. You know, why not do something like this? Well, or let's say takes with the bishop first. Well, the point here is that then you crash through on h2 with check. And black's doing okay. White's still better. This is definitely playable. The knights start hopping. But, okay, it wasn't how Pragg wanted to go. He decided to go bishop g5, keep more pieces on the board here. Bishop d6 drops back. Again, the pawn offered, but you don't want to go in for this. Tactical shot at the end of the line. There goes your undefended rook. So instead we see g4. And it's a great expansive move because the knight is short of squares. You know, can't come to e7. It's going to drop. Two pieces converging. That's why we see h6, counter-attacking move, and after queen e4, very nice idea, we get this change in pawn structure. Just the kind of sharp game that Pragg is looking for. Rook a7 now played. Coming away from this x-ray, also freeing up some defensive stuff across here. Now we see rook takes on d4. This pawn kicks on, and it sets a trap. If you take, well, this is the point. Bishop takes once again, pawn recaptures, and because the queen left e4, rook drops off the board. So, g-pawn, not touched. Knight g5 instead. It's hotting up. This pawn drops with check. King g2, but this is looking nice for white. You know, imagine one day switching the play. Many cool ideas for white. These knights are just so powerful. Queen e5 now played, so going for an exchange. We don't see it played immediately. Instead, rook d5, pressuring queen, x-ray defending f5. These ones come off now, knight recaptures, the bishop slides all the way home, and after f6, it now comes back. Weird, maybe it was a mouse slip from Nijat, or he just realised it's on the right square now. And by the way, they're over the board, not playing online. Now we see the tension just maintained here for the moment. Both players in a staring contest. The rook hits the open file. Pragg in the driver's seat. Rook c7 played. This one jumps up the board. Rook 1 to d4. You would write that as if you were scoring. Rook c6. Now knight d6, hopping right in. Why don't we see a mass liquidation? Well, the problems remain with this pawn, and then how dangerous are these connected ones? So instead we see g5. It's a nice move. Cements the bishop. Prepares to bring this king round. Knight takes on c8. Rook recaptures, and knight e4 the best move here. But low on time, Pragg goes for an exchange. This is on the board, the king sidesteps, rook a8 going after this one, but Nijat has a great move. He can go rook d6, but he misses it. Hard to see because you leave the pawn, but the point is you're rapidly creating play here. This kind of thing, g3 comes, black's got huge counterplay. Won't keep going and going on the line, but computer says it could be held to a draw. Okay, we jump back because the pawn was captured. Excuse me. Not the most precise. This one now drops. Rook f5 played, not swapping off, pressuring the knight on c5, so b5 can't come, but Pragg finds this excellent move, covering f6 and the queening square and preparing to start pushing. King g7, rook a5 offers that exchange and how to avoid. You just can't do so. Pragg just ignores everything that Nijat does here, pushes on, and here we see resignation. Because if bishop e3 to stop the advance, there's knight c5, intercepting, away goes the pawn. Red carpet rolled out. Great win by Pragg, leaping him forward in the standings. Jump to this game now. Gukesh versus Hikaru. This is a spicy one. Gukesh joint leading with Jan, Hikaru in the chasing pack. We get e4, c5 from Hikaru. He wants a fight. Knight f3, and now this is awesome. A hyper accelerated dragon, as the computer calls it. I thought this was just the accelerated, but okay, hyper accelerated apparently. He's looking for a fight. We get c3 from Gukesh, going back into an Alpine Sicilian type thing. Now d5 from Hikaru. Classic idea when your opponent's played c3. The knight can no longer come there after takes and queen recaptures. So Gukesh decides to advance. And now bishop g4 looks to eliminate the knight, then set up the light squared pawn formation. And here we see bishop b5 check in a counter threat. Knight c6 blocking the way. We get takes, pawn recaptures, castles on the board, and now Hikaru doesn't even touch his kingside development, right? He cracks on with pawn c4, looking of course to take here when the d pawn advances. Gukesh obliges, this is the line on the board, queen recaptures and now takes on f3, eliminating that powerful knight, supporting so many central squares. Bishop g7, queen e2 back, queen c7 pressuring, rook e1 to cover, and after e6, Hikaru's got his classic light squared pawn formation. Works very harmoniously with this bishop and this knight jumping around. We see b4 now, great move. Keeping an eye on c5 here, preparing to fianchetto the bishop. Knight e7, knight d2, knight c8 now, looking for this kind of maneuver. The computer says a4, a decent expansion, but c4 immediately played by Gukesh. He doesn't want Hikaru to get a grip on that square. Castles, bishop b2, a5 to undermine the chain, supported of course. An exchange of rooks, takes on c4, both players with mutual weaknesses, and this is what they begin targeting. But Gukesh on the worst side of this here. He's got the bad bishop compared to Hikaru's. Few more moves as they target the pawns. Hikaru trying to turn up the pressure, but what to do? Both players shuffling. They're heading towards move 40. Don't think they can offer a draw until move 40. But once we pass that mark, this is the 40th move, and a draw was agreed. No bloodshed there, unfortunately, even though Hikaru tried to spice it up. And now jump to this final game. This was brutal. One of these players loses, one does not, obviously. So we get e4 from Vidit, c5 from Alireza. He's been struggling so far, looking to bounce back. He wants a fight. d6 played, an open Sicilian, and now knight f6, knight c3, not met with a Najdorf, but a classical Sicilian with knight c6. Bishop g5, main move, but there are many moves of course. We see this one played, the Sozin attack. I believe it's also called the Fischer-Sozin variation. Fischer loved this move, right? And now an unusual one, well, the way Alireza plays, sorry, queen b6. e6 is the main move. Queen b6 still quite common, sorry, not unusual. But what Alireza does in a moment isn't common. Now this queen pressuring two spots, of course. If bishop e3, you can actually take that pawn. Gets complicated, but playable. So knight b3, the main move. Now e6, setting up the Scheveningen pawn structure. One of the hardest words to say in chess, right? Bishop f4 now played, and knight e5 is the main move. Covering that attack, hitting this bishop here. But Alireza undevelops the queen to d8, and keep your eye on this queen, right? We get queen d2 after a 10-minute think. Now a6, looking for expansion. A3 covering this b4 square, b5 comes, bishop e2, and now Alireza makes a huge opening mistake. There is big pressure on d6, so you should start with knight e5 or bishop e7 playable. But bishop b7 is played, castle's queenside, and there's suddenly massive problems with this pawn. The main one being, if you go knight e5 now, well, there's a difference. You can sack on b5, apologies, clicked it too fast there, and after this pawn recaptures, you take off the knight, open the d file, land the check, and the king getting cut to shreds here. This actually leads to a checkmate. And if you try and block with the knight, coming back here, well, this one can just be chopped off, of course. Again, you're leading to a checkmate. Absolutely terrible. Knight e5 not possible. So the queen comes back to b6 here, targeting the f2 pawn, leaving this to be taken, and rook d8 can come. Vidit doesn't do it, just expands. And h6, technically the best move here. But Alireza's just like, right, in for a penny, in for a pound, takes on f2. It's such a bad move, sidelining the queen, king still in the center, and Vidit just punishes, right, with e5, ripping open the center of the board. We don't see captures, or else you're just getting absolutely hunted. After this bishop drops back, where does the queen go? You know, if it comes out here, this is a sample line. That would lead to a checkmate. And if instead of coming back here, you know, you step here, the rooks start harassing and trapping, it's so bad. So knight d7 played. We see takes on d6, and it's a monster thorn pawn. Can't be recaptured. Alireza back to b6 with the queen. It's like a yo-yo. Gone back to d8 now. What a terrible journey. The 6th queen move, I think, in 16 moves. Rook hf1. The king under fire still. Finally, the knight hits the square it belongs on. Queen d4, rook c8, and here Vidit, he's just absolutely in control. He even mops up the queen side here, and then finds this amazing move of bishop a7. Looks clumsy, but you can't actually take advantage, and b5 is dropping. This is how it all played out. Check. King b1. Bishop takes, the knight gallops in, finally castles, getting out of the center, but what a monster position. I mean, look at the domination of these pieces. Alireza doesn't even try and save the exchange. He goes for play over here, Vidit snaffles that one off, attack mine, I attack yours, we see this exchange, and this is now just a case of technique for Vidit. He's what, 2 pawns to the good, or maybe just 1, but it feels like 2 pawns with how powerful that d6 pawn is. Mate threatened, covered with the rook. Now we see an exchange offered, Alireza declines, and slowly and surely Vidit starts making progress, sacks an exchange just to push the pawn here. What to do after knight d4? Alireza resigns the game. Knight c6 is on the way, it's completely unavoidable, rook dropping, pawn going through, nothing left to play for. Really brutal, and these are now the final standings. We knew Nijat would struggle, but for Alireza to be right down there like that, just such a shame when he's got so much talent, but just doesn't seem at the races the last year or so. And then we've got the battle up top, really hotting up. Good chasing pack there, fascinating tournament to come. I hope you enjoyed. Do smash subscribe to never miss a future video, and check out the video on screen for another amazing game of chess. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you soon.